Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. I'm Brian. I'm the host of the Left of Greg show. You're going to be watching the video version of our audio podcast. Please, guys, if you like the video, like it, subscribe to the channel. There's going to be more content on there if you're already a subscriber, and a better way for us to get you guys some more stuff. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave them below. Check out our links down below to get a hold of us and to actually find out more places where you can get more information about this. Please like and subscribe. Follow us on Facebook at HBPRNA. Remember, all these cases that we discuss and all these discussions that we have are through the lenses of what we call human behavior, pattern recognition, and analysis. So please like it, share it, tell your friends about it, and we hope you enjoy the show. Thanks. All right, Greg. So on today's show, we're I'm gonna go over a few of the letters, I guess, the questions from fans. So shout out to everyone who is reaching out to us. I appreciate it.
Is that fans? Can we legally use that word? I don't know. I'm just asking.
So, actually, I do need to shout out to the folks outside the U.S. who we've been growing in popularity with. Everyone listening in from the U.K., especially
and Ghana specifically.
Yeah. So the ones actually down in Australia, and then a few places in Europe, Ireland, and a few other countries as well. But guys are actually reaching out and creating a little bit of buzz. And there are a few countries on that list that I've sent to my friends who are still in the intelligence community to go, hey, well, make sure, is that a military unit listening to this? I hope.
We got a letter from a Namibian prince. Do you remember that one?
Guaranteeing me money. I'm still waiting. I wired him $5,000. He's supposed to wire my bank account millions.
That's our Arcadia money. So we're hoping it goes somewhere. We really do.
So here's some of the questions we get, and we do get them from all over the place. So I'll let you pick which we want to answer today. So question number one, where do emotions come from? I thought that was a good one.
Okay.
2, I'm going on vacation. How good is the security at Disney? That's a standard one. We get it filled in.
We get that one a lot, actually.
But I'm going here. What's the security like, whether it's a baseball game or something? So that's a good one. And then 3, we got another good one in here. Do the dollar store drug test kits actually work? So,
that's great.
So, like I said,
that's great.
We get them. So I kept them pretty. We kept them pretty G-rated today. But
all right, so we'll go in your order. Let's do them all.
Okay.
And we'll satisfy them. Right. But we'll start off right away that if you're forecasting the future of your employment on a dollar store drug kit, you've already answered your own question. You get what I'm saying, Brian?
Yeah.
So that's kind of answering itself.
That's like that. Is that like, so you're telling me, is that like when we're teaching in place and someone comes up to me and says, I want to know if my wife's cheating on me. And I'm like, hey, okay, so listen, I just met you 5 minutes ago.
Right.
You don't know anything about me or anything. And that's what you come up with. I'm going to guess you already know the answer to that question.
But Brian, you know why though? Okay.
Yes.
You and I both know why. Yeah. Let's make sure our readers, watchers, listeners, whatever they're called, the fans, as you call them. We use that term so loosely. But the idea is this, okay? You create your own reality because what you want is you don't want us. You don't want Brian and I. You don't want Brian, Shelley, Martin, and I. You don't want Arcadia. What you want is a drop on your tongue that makes you feel better. So go out and buy a Pez dispenser and soak it in bourbon or whatever.
Go download the app that someone else is selling
am I lying?
Right now.
So
not going to do anything Brian, for you, but it'll make you feel better.
Have you heard of this LinkedIn thing? So what grinds my gears today? So I still haven't.
I knew this was going to turn into this Peter Griffin.
Well, I look like him, don't I?
Yeah.
I still haven't cracked the code on LinkedIn.
No, you don't need to.
Don't understand it, but I've been like a loyal member since like '97. And so today I'm going through, and LinkedIn, 1887.
Back when you wrote letters to them and people responded, yeah.
Exactly. Dear LinkedIn. So I'm sitting there looking at this, and somebody goes, hey, to all you, and it'll be non-attribution because I don't want to hurt anybody's pride. But it says on there, it says, hey, all you human behavior bubbas, all you, this and that. First of all, there's like 5. I'm the best in the world. Come get some. And the other 3 posers only do stuff that they write and put on a shelf. And then anybody else that says that they are, that's not Greg trained. So here, what they do is this. The 2 just recently over the long weekend here. One shows a guy getting stabbed by a guy that hands him flowers in one hand, and while nobody's looking, he reaches in and grabs a knife. And then the next one is people sitting out. It looks like Zona Rosa, the old vids from the attempted assassination. Guys are sitting on plastic furniture, having lunch between two cars on a city street, and the motorcycles are driving up and down before an assassination. And they go, what do you know? First of all, if you're getting your advice from Dollar Tree or LinkedIn, reassess, because LinkedIn is great for whatever it does, but that's not the place to do training. Second of all, if you're sitting on a gosh damn city street in plastic furniture having a hoagie, and you think that you've got situational awareness, you're out of your mind.
Yeah.
Give yourself the gift of time and distance. So this is what we'll do, Brian. We'll talk about your topics. We'll talk to these things here. If the viewers at home agree to get themselves to training, because training changes behavior. Not a book. Books are great. Not a webinar. Webinars are wonderful, and not some gosh damn website.
You can't knock webinars if we're going to do them.
Not,
we're just doing it for free, though.
We're doing a free webinar. So you know what? Again, you're going to the Dollar Tree. Don't complain, you bastard.
Yeah.
So
no, I get your point.
Get where
There's
I'm going.
a time and place for it, and people need to understand what you're getting. And
because somebody's watching, Brian. Somebody is watching, and they're taking their advice from that site.
Right.
And if you're saying, "Well, do this, do that," slow time down, dude. You got to get back, and you got to have the ability to train. Because if you don't, you're going to get caught up in the moment, and that's Bang. And everybody at Bang has an equal chance. Everybody at Bang.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that stuff is just that it'll come and go because it'll only last so long. Because people go, well, wait a minute, I'm not getting everything or this isn't really working what you're saying, because a difference between training and education. We've talked about that before.
Yes.
But let's get back to the viewer questions.
You're right. I was animated.
You know what grinds my gears?
Yeah, exactly.
Peter Griffin.
So this is a perfect way to talk about this.
Well, I think it's a perfect way to start with where do emotions come from.
You're right, because we're both a little touched. So emotions are evolutionary triggers. That's where we're going to start today. Okay. And what does that mean to us? That means that they can be really, really good, or they can be really, really bad. So emotions being an evolutionary trigger, example one. Taught in martial arts, still teach it to select clientele for 40 years. If you get snot lockered and your eyes start to water, your brain doesn't know the difference, so it'll start making you sad because your brain only has certain triggers for certain emotions, and watery eyes mean, do you get what I'm saying, some distinct emotion. So all of a sudden you'll find yourself going, should I stay or should I go, in the emotional register. So that's why if you ever have to backfist somebody that's trying to choke you and you make their eyes water, they'll also feel sad about it. So that's a good thing. There's an emotion for every possible human.
Right. And
right?
So that's a good point right there. Just I'll just interject, because you're already bringing up kind of it's a feedback loop, right? So either I can be sad and my eyes will start to tear up, or if my eyes start to tear up, I will start to feel sad.
You can't control every aspect of that. Okay. You're exactly right. So think of it this way. The second one I want to give you, just so we can yin and yang it here. Shelly and I are sitting in a restaurant. Yeah, surprise, right?
Yeah, you're eating. Go on.
Yeah, exactly. So we're outside of College Park, Georgia, Atlanta area. I'm trying to think of the great restaurant.
Which the barbecue place, right?
Yeah, that one? Exactly.
Oh my God!
So it's
like you leave there smelling like barbecue. It's absolutely incredible. So good.
And we're sitting there, and very few kids in the place. And I noticed it when we first walked in that families don't eat free because it's pretty expensive. Do you get what I'm trying to say? But as we're looking around, I see these pods of children. So this kid that's to my right, he gets the big eyes, and you know that he's going to cry. So all of a sudden, you start hearing him, and then he cries. When he cries, I see a little head pop up directly across from me, and the little head is another little kid about the same age looking around. He makes eye contact with the kid that's crying. What do you think he did?
Started crying.
Cried. Because we mimic human behavior. We mimic human emotion. So if everybody's at a sad movie, the sad movie's getting sadder because every sad person, you're feeling that. It's like a yawn. It goes through the audience. You get what I'm trying to say? And it's almost involuntary. It's almost impossible.
I have to yawn right now because you said yawn.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
Thank God I didn't say crap. You know?
Yeah, I don't say it.
Exactly.
But no, I think that's a good point then too, with emotion and learning, right? So mimic, you learn through mimicking, just like kids learn and mimic behavior that they see or that they've experienced before.
So if you're a mom and a dad and you're doing a domestic in front of your kid and yelling and screaming, and that kid's amygdala isn't completely formed yet as a young one,
Yeah.
what they're going to do is they're going to be petrified of that and either seek it out and do that with their next husband, wife, significant other, or every time that happens, they're going to run away and hide in the neighbor's dumpster. You are in control of part of those building blocks, but emotions are two sides of the same coin. So you have
Yes.
that self-reflection memory side, and then you have the involuntary stimulus reaction side. So when we're talking about getting hit in a snot locker or seeing somebody yawn, we're talking about an involuntary reaction where the brain is saving calories and mimicking a behavior. Then when we're talking about the self-reflection or the memory side, we're talking about introspection. And all of a sudden I think about little Tommy getting hit by the car and I can't help but cry. Does that make sense? They're
Okay.
both sides of that same process system in humans.
Okay, so back to yeah, and that's kind of a further explanation of where emotions come from. And you said, evolutionary trigger. So a lot of
Yeah,
these are based on, it's how we learn to I would tie to survival, right? So those emotions are based
yeah,
on
absolutely.
survival of the species because it's how we still have our brain, our limbic system is worried about our survival, right? So that's where those emotions kind of form, right? So we learn certain ones, and I like keeping it. We always use the analogy of there's two sides to the coin, right? So
Exactly. Something
all of
simple
them
you can
have,
visualize.
yeah, something. They all have two sides to the coin on a purpose and kind of where it came from and why we have it, right? And we've got into stuff like the last one we discussed, rage, right? Well,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
there's two sides to that coin, meaning yeah, it's terrible and it's awful, but the other side is, hey, that's
Essential for
it's
survival.
essential for survival. When
Exactly.
that saber-toothed tiger jumps out, you need to be able to flip that switch and defend yourself. So
Well,
so
Brian, look how, and to keep on that theory just for a second, and it's more than a theory, it's borne out in science. Look how the brain spread loads information. Emotions located in a number of physical locations inside the brain,
right,
limbic system, cerebral cortex, different corticals. Why? It's spread loaded, so we're
yeah,
not accidentally overwhelmed by one or another trigger. So it's not going to always be smell or smell and sight, or it's not going to be motion. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Light, motion, and edges. So chemicals in the brain influence emotions, right?
hmm,
But they can also be mimicked by external triggers. So the brain has spread loaded it to a whole bunch of places. So there's not one central computer that's going to process anything. Why? One, too slow. Two, it may be easily overwhelmed when we're asleep.
right.
Like for example, or let's say that we have too much to drink, and all of a sudden our part of our brain has the alcohol absorption, but the other part is still trying to do our self defense. Does that make sense?
Right, and that, yeah, and because it can come, it's all about, again, if we tie it to survival, different threats can come from different areas, meaning
Yes.
I
So
might
your
not
brain
perceive
has
it,
to
receive it.
allow. Yeah, yeah, yep, yep.
Right, so it has to allow it, and then two, the mimicry part is huge as well, and I think that's not, you gave the great story of a child. I think a lot of people have seen that before, where
Yeah.
that kid's crying, or but that's how behavior works, right? So I'm, people have had that experience before. They walked in the house and saw their loved one, or they were at the bar and they saw their buddy, and they looked over and they knew that they were immediately angry or upset, and then you started becoming upset, like, hey, what's going on here?
Exactly.
What's happening? That's those, as we have one of our of people that we used to work with, the major, who always like to talk about mirror neurons, which are great, because you
Yes.
have actual neurons in your brain that allow you to mirror or mimic another person's brain state, which is absolutely essential for learning, absolutely
Central
essential
for
for
learning, also low
communication.
calorie. Do you get
And
what I'm trying to
yeah,
say? And open lines of communication. You're right on, Brian.
yeah, communication. So it allows us to mirror that person's brain state, right? So I can go, oh, I understand that emotion, I'm mimicking it in my head. I will also start to feel that, right? If you're someone, if
You
you're
have to.
or it's like you're standing around and one person starts taking off and running, and everyone starts running, and they're like, what are you running for? Like, I don't know, why are you running? we
He's
just
running.
so we
So
just
it's
it's
think about
survival.
it. Think about it this way, okay? Let's say that we're going to teach a martial arts class, and again, this is the LinkedIn. Let me put a martial arts move on LinkedIn, or sell a book. You remember Barney Fife studying karate? Buy a book in the Andy Griffith Show and holding the book in one hand and trying to do the Kotogashi in the other. But the idea here is, listen. If I was going to tell you a strategy that will work, uh, uh, situation, guy pulls a gun, a knife, hey, don't turn this robbery into a homicide, whatever else. If you mimic the appropriate emotion, the emotion you don't want to do is, hey, I'm going to be the one to make you use that gun. That's
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
not the
that's not,
emotion.
yeah,
You start there and he gives you no place to go. You
yeah.
get what I'm trying to say? condescending. Being condescending is an emotion. Do you get what I'm trying to say? There's an emotion for every response. But if you're like, man, anything you say, you're in charge. Okay. So I'm giving the hands, I'm giving the calm down signal, I'm giving the eyes up, I'm alert and aware, and take everything, man. It's only a property crime. You're good. You know what I'm saying? So the idea is that in certain circumstances, I would say a victim that is being bullied might have to go to the opposite end of the spectrum. So
Right.
what you're talking about is that just between these, you can actually influence the behavior of another because you can jumpstart their limbic system or
Well,
your own.
and
You know?
that's you're getting up into a level of training and education there of actually understanding emotions. But I think
Yeah.
understanding,
And we're
well,
talking
just
black belt now. We've gone
yeah,
from white belt basics up
but
to black belt. You're
just
right.
to talk about where they come from, it's all predicated on somewhat of survival and
All around survival.
why a mother feels an attachment to their child, immediately at
And
birth,
so
or
they
why
can
it takes.
find them. Do
Right,
you get what I'm
and
saying?
why do there's all these different. They're not so much theory. Well, they're theories. They're ways to articulate and explain things, but of why you see little kids. Everyone has that feeling like, oh, look at the little baby. Well, that's for its survival. If we didn't have that, how many babies wouldn't have survived? Or would have been
You're
left.
exactly right. So
So
you have oxytocin that
yes.
comes on board involuntarily. So mom can find baby, baby can find mom.
Hmm.
Specifically, baby with no eyes open can find mom's nipple and feet. Survival, plain and
Yep.
simple. Baby looks cute, so we don't look and go, oh, a pot roast.
Yeah.
We don't want to do that. You get what I'm saying? And what you just did, Brian, is you just leaped. You're the whatever that snowman that leaped the broom in Frosty's Adventure. Now we're married.
I think it's
But what you did is you just leaped into how Disney works.
yeah.
So if
So let's just jump into that. Yeah.
what Disney knows is if you could only dwell on one part of the body that's going to offer up immediately how a character feels, it's going to be their eyes, and it's going to be the part of their face between their eyes, nose, and mouth. Everything that happens right here is how humans learn what emotional registers that they're playing. I made you sad. I hurt your feelings. I love you. And all of history is about it. So Disney didn't, Disney cracked the code on a few things. I'll give you an
Yeah.
example. Anthropomorphism. Anthropomorphism in Disney, that's where an animal like a pig or a cow or a spider or something like that takes on human characteristics. And it's a great way to tell a story. And storytelling is how humans learn. So if you could do that cave painting, that Disney cave painting with a horse or a bull, the sad little bull, that movie came out a little while ago, or some parrot, and people hate birds, but Disney hasn't figured that out. A movie about an owl that failed, a movie about a parrot that failed. But the idea is at least they're trying. Anthropomorphism works. And
Yeah.
then pareidolia. Pareidolia is how you see a human face and everything.
In
And
everything.
they do
Right.
that everywhere. And
Well,
why do they do that? Because then you involuntarily in your brain will assign a human characteristic to an object, to a lamp, to a broom, to the candelabra. And that's how you open yourself to accept the emotions. And all their stories are the same. They're all
yes.
about good and evil.
Yes.
So,
And
so how
there's
do they draw you in and make $1 zillion?
no, and that's amazing because there's people that talk about all the different themes in Disney movies. You talk about good and evil and stuff, and you're like, well,
There's
how do
two,
these become
good and
so?
evil.
Yeah, there's how do they become so popular, and why do people, why do we carry those memories with us through life about movies we saw when we were a little kid? And I think it goes
Exactly.
back down to that, where I mean, you can get into the different, like, people get into the theological or philosophical,
Yeah, they
stories
take it
behind,
too hard.
which is all,
Yep.
yeah, but that's all true. These are all, I
It is. It
Catholic
is.
education, these are all Christian stories pretty much, but the idea is I think this is a good point to where we always say, because I was just talking to one of my friends about this, is that she had some questions about something or posted something on Facebook, and I said, well, look, Walt Disney's been teaching you about human behavior your whole life, you just didn't realize it. So it starts there with just what you talk about, was they, one, anthropomorphize everything, so they can make anything into a human, they will.
Anything.
Right? And then two, how do they do that? Well, you just talked about the eyes and the facial features and why we are drawn to certain things. So there's certain characters and stuff, obviously, that really, really reflect and teach us about human behavior in all of these.
So rewind your tape just a
Yep.
bit, and there's folks, that if you're listening or you're watching, Brian and I disagree on everything. There's not a thing that we agree upon, and that's why we've been friends for so long.
Yeah, I think that's the only reason why you've kept me
honest to
around
God,
too when you're doing stuff. Because everyone else will just be like, "Wow, that sounds great, Greg." I'm
those
like, "You're an
corporate
idiot."
yes men, yes, yeah, drive off this cliff at 140 miles an hour. Of course, that's a great idea. So I take umbrage with only one point that you said. You said these are Christian stories. Okay,
Well, no, I meant
I know what
from
you meant.
what I grew up
From
with.
your upbringing.
Yes,
But
yes.
there's
They're
a Chinese kid out there.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
an Arab kid out there,
Yep.
and they could link their stories back too.
Yep.
For example, this poser that just redid Aladdin, the live action parts of Aladdin and everything.
Yeah.
And this brings up an ethical question from me to Disney, not to Walt Disney because he's in cryogenics, but to the Disney family. Are you doing your best to represent society and baselines as they actually occur in nature and society, or are you just fulfilling this obligation to diversity?
Yeah.
Because think about it, Aladdin, the story that they all did, and they said, well, we have to have characters that represent it. That's a Chinese story, and your little kid wasn't Aladdin; it was some Chinese kid. Stop that for a minute. Stop assigning stuff that doesn't belong. I will give you a couple examples. For example, in psychology, there's a thing called the Peter Pan syndrome. And Peter Pan is the kid that doesn't grow up.
Yeah.
And so that's a story from a book, but we assign it to Disney because nobody reads anymore.
Right.
And so Peter Pan has been done as a stage play, this, that, and the other. We know all the trivial bits of it, but that jumped into psychology, and now it'll be there forever. Dopey, the character from the dwarves. Dopey is named specifically for the drug dopamine. Episodic dopamine, episodic cortisol. Cortisol makes me poop so I can prepare to run. Dopamine makes me wavy gravy, chili palmer happy, and I want to repeat the behavior. So
and
every
what
time
the big eyes come from.
Yeah. So when I'm baking the ganj,
which is legal in Colorado and California, so
and you don't have to have glaucoma anymore. The idea is that dopey character drew exactly from that.
Yeah.
And if you don't think that happens, folks, you're not paying attention. I'll give you an example, Brian, of color. If we take a look at all Disney villains have red and black in their color scheme, right? Red and black,
most of them
and then
some form,
because they know how the brain responds to Roy G. Biv.
Yep.
So red and white means safety, cleanliness, everything is safe. Red and yellow means, damn, I'm hungry. Look at your favorite food or your favorite restaurant.
McDonald's,
to go to.
In-N-Out, everything.
Hey, forget the burger. How about the In-N-Out? Chevy Chase, great line. Sorry, I had to go for the cheap joke. Salacious, we're fired. But think about it. When we talk about characters that they show, if the character that you're looking at on any cartoon show, and by the way, I just watched one last night, Sleep is Overrated, called Teen Titans Go. And on Teen Titans, they had the toxic toots and the atomic toots where the kids were farting on it. And the brown eye, what does it lead to?
Leads to the pink eye.
The pink eye.
Yeah.
But the reason I was laughing about it is when they made their junior characters. Remember how advertisement works, folks. We had Scooby-Doo, so then we got to make Scrappy-Doo, and then when Scrappy and Scooby are done, we got to make Baby Scooby-Doo, and then what we got to do is we got to take Scooby-Doo to space, and after all of those, it's Scooby-Doo in the old folks' home. Why? It's just all in marketing. But anytime that you got big eyes, the baby chins, little short noses, and the wide faces, that makes them look baby-like. And right back to what Brian was saying, those big eyes, the big dilated pupils make us fall in love, and we get stupid. So all of those aren't accidental, and Disney cracked the code on that a long time ago. So that gets back to
and then even to the term dope or dopamine, it's all referred to by law enforcement. So like people call, you smoking dope. That's a euphemism for drugs. Why? Because some of them mimic dopamine, some of them release dopamine in your body. But that's the whole thing. You get the happy head, you get dopey, right? So you're
exactly.
That's I think it's
which by the way is now the jump into the third part of the second part of the question, again, back to the Dollar Tree test kit, which, by the way, is one of the best 5 questions ever. Look, anytime that you have somebody that wants to display an emotion, emotions that are unusual, like anger or fear, trigger us just like somebody running in a mall. We don't know what it is. It's the part of our brain, the amygdaloids are responding to those and saying this might be dangerous. And as Brian said, folks, before, you'll start running. You won't even know why you're running. So if you're a parent, or if you're a copper, or if you're working at a school and you see somebody that's got bloodshot eyes, that's not enough. because there's a lot of different drugs and alcohol and cocaine and marijuana that allow the blood vessels to
I just
open.
call that Friday night, but go ahead.
But you understand what I'm trying to say. So
Yeah, there's a
what you
there's
got
a
to do,
number of different things that you
so
can't.
you have to
Yeah,
drill in specifically to those. So if you're talking about intoxication,
yeah,
alcohol intoxication is mimicked by inhalant intoxication.
right.
The lucky Suerte, Jay Cease, and I were in a pursuit on Highway 6 in Colorado one day. We were doing a drug task force in the valley, and Jay picks up on a stolen ride, even though we're both in semi-marked cars. We got to have the lead car take it, but we're parallel in pursuit, save speed, waiting for the guy to bail. And he pulls right in front of Jay, and the guy has a what looks like a mason jar with a plastic bag with silver paint spread into it. And
Oh
as he
yeah,
goes by Jay, he literally looks at Jay and gives it just a minute. I
yeah,
intend on pulling over as soon as I get as high as I can. And
yeah.
ketones and silver and gold paint are the highest for inhalants. But listen, the watering, red eyes, that form of intoxication is almost exactly alcohol. You've got the bloodshot eyes from marijuana intoxication. So don't be in a hurry to define a specific trait to one thing. It's a bandwidth of traits. So it could be an eye irritation that's caused
Well,
from
that
a high fecal bacteria count.
Well, that's
You
what I'm
know what
saying.
I'm
It
trying
could
to
be
say?
like you get out here, especially you go up in Orange County, and even down by me, you get the Santa Ana winds coming off the desert that blows that hot desert air in, and it just
Absolutely.
dries you out. And I get red eyes, and I stay watering, and I'm blowing my nose, and same thing.
Dude, you get the pink eye, you got to wash that pillowcase. I'm just saying, that's the thing. Yeah. So both legal and illegal narcotics, heroin, morphine, fentanyl, hydrocodone, they're all constricting the pupils. The pupil is much better than just saying, hey, overall, this means this. In high doses, those pinpoint pupils aren't going to respond to light. So if
Yeah.
you're an EMT or a copper and you're shining light, so that's a good thing because the body can't come off of that. Amphetamines, Molly, MDMA, all that other stuff. Okay, you're also going to get that nystagmus, which is these
Yeah.
are all, by the way, in Brian's.
Well, this
I'm
all
not going
happening.
to say it.
You're doing
Yeah,
the test on me right now because
right now.
video.
So
And
you're going to
yeah,
get that
so,
horizontal gaze nystagmus or the rapid quivering nystagmus.
but
That's something that's not mimicked
yeah,
by something else. Dilating the pupils, you're getting crack, coke, endorphins, adrenaline. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Now all of a sudden you're getting those, and if you look at like mescaline, LSD, any of your hallucinogenics, huge Disney pupils. And then when you look at heroin, it's going to be the exact opposite because the constriction comes because heroin is almost putting you to sleep. Do you understand what I'm saying? The type of drug is going to be characterized by you coming down almost into this vegetative comatose state. So instead of putting your faith in this dollar store, and I don't want to get against
yeah. I
dollar
was gonna
store,
say
Dollar
we're
Tree. Dude, I
yeah,
got to live there. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
yeah,
Those are the places where I buy all the cleaning supplies that I can't afford at the normal stores. But the idea is instead of putting your faith in that talisman that's hanging there that has a marijuana leaf on it or something, which it might work some of the time for some of the people, if you're a parent or a teacher, invest in the physiological stuff that the body can't hide. Do you
yeah.
get what I'm trying to say? PCP, ketamine, dextromethorphan, the cough suppressant stuff. All of those things have a specific visual stimuli range and how a person is going to speak and talk. So if you're going to invest in a TTP, invest in a TTP that doesn't change along all of society. That's going to be the same in Cambodia as in Canada, and it's going to be the same in California as it is in downtown Boston. To me, that's the type of stuff
Yeah.
that people should be investing in.
And yeah, and then well to tie that back into actually the both the first two questions
Yeah.
about where emotions come from and the whole Disney idea is that these are physiological reactions, right? So if I'm taking something or changing that, it's going to change my physiological
Yep.
reactions, right? So those emotions that I get too, right, are going to change, and those are going to display differently based on if I have different substances, if I'm
An
ingesting or inhaling
emotion,
whatever different stuff.
exactly.
But
An emotion for every stimulus. And just like a drug creates a stimulus, the emotion has a range of responses that are likely. You get what I'm saying? Now we're
yeah,
talking about human behavior pattern recognition
right,
analysis.
and
We're talking about having a range of emotions that's likely in each one of these little alleys.
Right, and like we always say, you can't always go off of just one thing that you see, right? So you gave
No,
the same thing, the observation of someone who appears to be high on some type of drug could also be they have their horrible allergies and their eyes are red and water and those, which brings
exactly. It
me,
could be a prescription drug. It
which
could be a reaction to a drug they
but
were legally given. Do you
but
get what I'm saying? Or an eye
yes.
test or something.
And that brings me back to the where do emotions come from slash Disney characters slash
Yep.
your LinkedIn rant, which you shouldn't bash on LinkedIn. I use it. It's
I'm not, and I
so
love LinkedIn. I just don't
so
understand
yeah, you don't understand it. So we
three
hear
guys on
things.
LinkedIn out of the million that are on there.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
That's true.
that's a good point. I think
That's a
that's a
true
better point.
statement.
But to bring
Yeah,
it back to that, I always like to because we give the example sometimes of, the Pinocchio example in Back to Walt Disney, right?
spot on.
So the Pinocchio example is great because what happened when Pinocchio lied? His nose grew. Well, where does that come from, right? If Dopey has big eyes because of the dopamine, then why does Pinocchio's nose grow? And we always bring it back to the physiological response, right? You have certain
Yes.
biometric responses when you are trying to be deceptive. I think that would be a better
Yep.
way versus just
Deception
lying.
cues.
So deception cues, which again you
Yep.
can't go off of one, even though some people like to, but deception cues. So the idea was, all right, hey, if you're feeling uncomfortable, someone's asking you questions you don't feel comfortable, and I put it generic like this because it's not just someone asking you direct questions whether you're lying. You might just not be comfortable answering these questions to someone, but
Exactly.
you have certain
So the
you get yeah,
uncomfortability
you'll get a little
index.
hot under the collar, right?
There you
So you
go.
get your hypothalamus will start to send your body warnings through heat. You'll get a little warm,
Exactly.
a little red, and then some people are more prone to this than others, but you get that histamine response, right? That histamine cross. You have the little cilia, the little hair-like fibers in your nose, and then anywhere up in your cheeks and in your ears will start to turn red. Well, that's just when you get embarrassed too, right?
Yep.
If anyone's ever been embarrassed before, you felt
Yep.
your face get extremely red, or if you got in anger, you felt your face get very red,
And the
or
more you feel it, what happens, Brian? The
oh, the
more
worse it
embarrassed you
gets. And well, that's the idea is then if that has that response that some people will feel it where your nose will itch a little bit and then you'll start to rub your nose. And that's kind of the idea of where
become.
Pinocchio comes from is when he
Even
lies,
more
his
so,
nose.
Brian, even more so physiologically, you scientifically check the human nose increases in volume and size when people don't tell the truth. The blood flows in there, the histamines are flowing, the cilia are moving.
Just
That
talking
now
about it right now is making it happen to me.
exactly. So what's happening is Disney animators knew how to exaggerate that. They're
Right.
coming out at the end of the month. I read it on LinkedIn. No, I'm kidding. They're coming out at the end of the month with a new character, Disney character called Methy McCrack's-a-Lot. And the
Okay.
idea is that
It's a new one to
methamphetamine
me, but
intoxication. Oh, it's on there. You look
it
close
sounds
enough.
like Shelley wrote
Newman's going to
this.
write about it. Newman
Shelley
writes
wrote
about
this one.
everything else. So
Yeah.
yeah. So meth intoxication makes your eye movements ticks 10 or 12 times faster than a normal human. So their new character will be doing a lot of these little herky jerky motions, and the eyes will be dancing around. You're talking spot on, Brian, and I'm trying to be funny here. What it is Disney's animators and Walt Disney himself would pick out these characteristics that were as old as time, and they would say, "We're going to make this one person epitomize
Yeah.
this character." Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
And so now that character is an amalgam of all of these physiological and human emotions in this one character. And cartoonists all over the world picked up on that, and some fed Disney liberally stole, like I do, brilliant ideas. Do you get what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say? Much easier stealing one than coming up with one on your own. But the idea that you're talking about is borne out through all of their characterizations. And why? Because then the person in the audience will eat the popcorn. You have to love it. You
Right. And
have
we
to
we
cry with the character. You
and
have
we've
to fall in love with the character.
and you can break it down into a few different molds. I think that's another good thing. Yes, we are all our own unique individual, and we all think
Little
that we're
snowflake.
we're this amazing personality of all the experiences that we have, and we're all so different than everyone. Well, then
But it's not true.
why are there only seven dwarfs? Because you could probably
Exactly.
fit everyone you know into one of those seven types of people, right? Or
Exactly. My
there's
Uncle
different
Paul played the doctor with me all the
there's
time. No, but
there's
you're exactly right.
but that's the whole thing. That's why we're all I like back to the Disney stuff where these characters come from. They're based on these are different personality traits and different people that have lived throughout history, and it repeats itself because
So so
we only have a narrow bandwidth that we operate in, right?
so
So
if we're normal humans, and we'll go to
which we
one
are
of our
not. but
Yeah, I'm saying generally, and the most general application of warm-blooded
yes,
bipedal,
yeah.
on the planet. Wow, that's a hard one.
Anthropologically,
So
yeah.
anthropologically, so let's talk about Collier and Collier's fascination with Sasquatch. Yeah, so it's a friend of ours. He's also an advisory board member, and the board of directors had nominated him as sergeant at arms because he has the biggest arm, and he used to be a sergeant. And the idea is that he likes that. I can't think of the name of the show, Brian. I'm scrambling
Yeah,
here.
the Bigfoot one.
Mountain Monsters. Mountain
Yeah.
Monsters.
Oh, is
So
that the name of it now?
yeah. So
Monster
watch.
Quest?
No, Mountain Monsters.
Okay.
Watch it on one of the channels and watch just one episode. And take that episode and hold it up against, and I named it earlier, Scooby Doo. Now, take Scooby Doo and hold that episode up against, you remember the monkeys? Hey, hey, with the monkeys.
No
You
one
probably
knows
do.
that show, but
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah. All people my age do. All of those have the same gag as the whoop and running around and chasing each other. And the guy, we want to pull his mask off, and it's old man McGregor. Okay, all of those things repeat themselves in Hollywood. They repeat themselves in novels and in comic books. Why? You just mentioned it. There's anthropologically, emotionally, historically, there's only a certain amount of ideas that stimulate human emotion.
Okay.
So if they're not one of those, you're not going to look. You and I didn't attend the Mapplethorpe exhibit. That doesn't mean that didn't appeal to other people.
Right.
But a titillation that occurred was a narrow bandwidth, and
Right.
therefore it's still not on the top of the punch. But these love stories that go on and on and on, and they're over. Like, how many times is Hollywood going to release a new version of A Star Is Born? Okay.
Yeah. No, and that's
Do
yeah.
you understand what I'm trying to say? So when it's successful, what do we do, Brian?
Well,
Everything becomes
they repeat it, and I think that's the idea about it appealing to a mass audience versus a smaller audience, right? That's the same stuff. Like McKaylee hates anything that I want to watch or something like that because it just doesn't appeal to her, right? It's
And she's
more
a
of a
human.
niche audience, yeah. But every time one of these movies or romantic comedies is like, oh, it's so good, I'm like, how do you not? How can you sit here and watch the same exact movie
Because she
over
has
and over again?
emotions.
Yeah, I know.
And you only mimic human emotions.
And that's absolutely true. But that, I think that's a good point of understanding where does emotion come from, and well, you can see it in manifest itself in every movie, every popular song, all that
Everything.
stuff. There's only
Every
such a,
food,
and it,
every item at a store.
you said it. We only have such a narrow bandwidth of things that'll appeal to humans. So now you might have your own unique little things.
7
your
to
niche.
9 to 11
Right.
specific emotions that we can all tie, even though there's emotions for everything that happens. Those
Right.
become the most popular, and they're the most used. So if we're talking about a car engine, those are the sparks. You get what I'm saying? That your
Yes.
rotor is hitting on most often. So you're going to be able to see the damage. And Brian, we can flip the script again and go up to black belt for HBPRNA. Urban masking, social camouflage. What do? They cover those ranges of emotion because another human is going to seek me out. If a human sees me doing a predatory look or a mission focus, they're immediately going to know something's wrong. Just like if I'm running, just like if I look sad or afraid or ball up my fist, their brain is going to catch up much quicker than they do, gift of time and distance. And what you have to do is you have to read and feel that. So what you want to do is you have to sometimes come out of those base emotions of love and its antithesis, hate. You get what I'm trying to say?
Right.
And you have to take a look and test that range, because once you test that range, then when you're on the binos and you're on the clock at work, you can actually see humans and go, this is what I'm likely seeing, and therefore I should see this range of emotions. If you don't, guess what? Maybe that person's trying to hide and you're getting set up for a robbery or a kidnapping, or do you get what I'm trying to say? Somebody's abusing a kid in that home. That's the way that you find anomalies against the baseline. You understand the basis of human emotions and where they come from. You understand things that can influence emotions, like we were just talking about the different drugs. And one thing that always stays the same is pupils. Pupils are regulated by light. So when other chemicals regulate them, like fear, pinpoint, or love, huge, we have to pay attention, because that's God, Buddha, Vishnu, Allah. He's yelling at us, pay attention to these changes in this human, or guess what? Laser focus back on yourself. I'm seeing this. Why do I feel this way? Why am I flushed all of a sudden? So those are all primitive warning signals in humans triggered by emotion.
Yeah.
And
No, and I think that's another good point there is to understand these are innate human emotions that most of
Exactly.
from all the humans I've met seem to experience them. I've yet to experience some of them, but I mimic them well.
Yeah, like
No, but
happiness.
yeah, happy. Oh,
I'm always praying for you, Brian.
so I think that's a kind of a good point to kind of I guess wrap up that
I
discussion
forgot
on.
the last question though.
Well, the last question was the dollar store drug
No, no,
test
no,
with
no, no.
drug.
We did dollar store. We did emotion.
No, well, we
Oh, the
talked about
Disney
it.
security.
How good is security at Disney? Oh yeah, we do
Yeah,
need to
yeah.
hit that. But
So,
we talked about Disney, but didn't talk about the question.
so here's the
That's called
thing.
a spiral, everyone.
That was not a very good one. That was more mediocre. No, but we talked about this a long time ago with Sean Clemens, one of our guests, and we talked about it with Jeff Williams at one time.
Hmm.
Going on vacation is what I'm talking about. Now, let's do this not that at large. Let's do this way. Okay. One, what are your obligations as a human going on vacation to Disney, and what are Disney's obligations? So this is what we do know. We know that Disney is one of the best in the world because they have
Yeah.
on-site emergency crews. They have medical EMTs. The band that you're wearing on your wrist that you think is just to make sure you paid is going to dictate where you are in the park at any time and help them locate pods of people, what's going on. There's videos of everything: metal detectors, bag checks, undercover security guards dressed as
Yeah.
tourists. Now, back in the old days, when you went to the parking garage, you'd take the tram, then you'd start to go to Disney. You're going to get a check and probably a random secondary and a dog check before you ever get there. So are they doing their job? Yes. Does that mean that you're immune to danger at Disney? Absolutely not. So I would say to all our listeners, Brian, I would say to everybody that tunes into us that it's your responsibility, and going right back to what we talked about, pupils. If you're close enough to see a person's pupils, you can tell a whole lot about that person, and you can smell. So are you smelling urban masking? Are they using too much cologne or something to cover up that they're a funky street person and haven't washed in a long time, or that they've recently smoked marijuana, or they've drank alcohol on duty? Do you get what I'm trying to say? Those are things interesting. You know, you and I go through a lot of halls mentholyptus. We could probably buy a wing on a library somewhere and donate it
Yeah.
by all the money we spent on halls. And everybody that we've ever taught always has halls, and they're spread loaded around the room because we speak a lot. And when we go out and speak, we use a lot of halls. You know, my biggest fear when we stop at the end of the day or we're on our way to work, somebody smells the halls and thinks we're covering, you know, using it as a cover
Right.
scent for alcohol or something.
Right.
And that bothers me. So let's take a step back from that. Clothes disheveled, seeing urine, feces, vomit on a person's clothing. Let's take a step back from that. Are the person's fist balled up? Are they pumping up their chest? Are they leaning forward with their mouth open, enunciating every word? Let's take a step back from that. Are both of their back from that? Are their shoulders, head, eyes, and now their functional field of view oriented at me? So we can go, Brian, from zero, from this locus here, all the way back to as far as we can see, even aided or unaided observation. Or we can walk from there, and you say it all the time, the best, small to big, big to small. We always work big to small.
Hmm.
Um, so I would say that before you were going on a vacation, you need to hire somebody to go through some of these things with you. And you're going, I don't need to hire that. You just told me, yeah, okay. So you're getting some for free. But the idea is that a trained security agent can take you through part test training, some
Right.
realistic scenarios, can explain to you some of the stuff that you probably don't know. And
Developing
there's
a
other
plan
people,
that's
a
specifically to
plan. And
that's usually what it comes down to. Because
yes,
to answer a broad question, am I going on vacation? How good is security at Disney? It's good. No security anywhere is perfect.
nope,
Do they have people, protocols, procedures in place to react to and handle a number of different situations, everything
absolutely.
from a shooting to a natural disaster? Yeah, they do. But if you don't know what that plan is, you're going to be behind the curve. And if you don't have your own with your family, you're definitely behind the curve. I mean, it's something as simple as just staying together and meeting points and rally points and communication and nonverbal communication, little
Yep.
code words like, hey, you hear that page so and so, whatever your code word is, or you tell your
Gallicanokis.
yeah, you
That's
tell your
Shelley's Mrs.
tell your kid,
Gallicanokis.
hey, no one comes and gets you unless they say this. phrase that only your family knows, then they know that's safe to go with that individual if they are looking
Yeah,
for you. So all that little stuff is,
so offset that, Brian. I'd
yeah.
yellow pad it and put a line right down the center. And everything that you said is sage advice. And listeners, go back to whatever time this is in the tape and listen to this, because Brian just gave you gems, and he gave them all for free. So put on this side over here how a terrorist thinks, how a criminal thinks. One, there's anonymity in a large crowd.
Mm-hmm.
So if I want to have a 7-step terrorist planning cycle, 7-step is escape and exploitation. If I want to exploit an incident, I'm not going to exploit me killing one guy in an alley somewhere and then not getting caught by police. Not much of a message there. Do you get what I'm saying? Even if I carve a pentagram, let's say, into the body, yeah, it's going to get some play, but it's going to die. I blow up a bunch of people at a huge place, okay, where there's a bunch of people that can't run, then that one device or one bullet or one thing that I have in that crowd is probably going to be magnified and more lethal, right? So as a parent, you're going, wow, I'm going to go to Disney. As a counter-terrorist subject matter expert, I'm going to go, yeah.
Yeah, I
You know what I'm
don't.
trying to say? High on the hooligan scale,
Yeah.
right? And once those things happen, Brian, they're like ripples in a pond, and you can't avoid them. But on the other side of that, right across from that, Disney's probably one of the best in the world that's prepared for that.
Yeah.
And gosh knows they've been targeted before. So for everything Brian said, folks, I would have that as part of your plan. For example, your money, how you carry your money, where you carry your money, if you flash your money, that should be a line. Kids, what am I going to do if I lose a kid? How long do I wait before finding the kid? Where do the kids go if the kid finally goes, holy crap, I'm lost? Those are considerations. That's over here. Now, if you didn't do your research online and figure out the place that you're going to has a policy and procedure in there, right?
Right.
And same thing like a kid having an inhaler. They need Ventolin. You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Where's your prescription for that? Where do you keep it? Where's your backup for that? And if I'm in Pasco County, do you get what I'm trying to say? What's the place that handles my insurance? These are things. Do you remember the time coming through Frankfurt, and you and I were headed for KSA, and there was a person that didn't exchange their money, and everything had to be in a certain specific currency, and they were going like, no, man, you can't pay in U.S. currency, and we don't take that credit card.
Yeah.
And that person was lost. At that moment in time, traveling, that person was beholden to us, and you and I were trying to scramble together enough money for them to get, and I don't even remember what the hell it was.
Yeah.
Look, you're going to stick out from that mistake, and everybody's going to go tourist, which means potential victim. So there's parts that are your part, and there's parts that are society's part. Do you get what I'm saying?
Right. And we've done other podcasts people can look through and on travel and safety and all that stuff and different plans. We've broken that down before. So, you can always go back and listen to that. But I think that's I mean, yes, they have good security, but that doesn't mean you're also accepting the fact that you're walking into a place that is a great spot for some type of attack, whether that be criminal activity, terrorist activity. So I think that's what it is that, we forget that sometimes. I know people always ask like, hey, why do you do certain things? Like, look, I always back into a parking spot if I can. Why? It's just easier to get out. It's safer. I'd rather back into a spot than back out into traffic, right? I don't park right out in front of where I'm going, right? It's not like I don't want people to know I'm there. If you cruise the block and you know what I drive, you're going to know I'm in there. It's not that. It's just if something chaotic happens and we have to leave, if I'm parked right in front of that place, I'm not going anywhere. I don't have an out. I can't get out of there with my vehicle.
Exactly.
So I'm a little bit more mobile on foot. Those kind of things are just small little examples of what you can build in. But we've done all that in podcasts prior. I just, wanted to kind of somewhat stick to where we're at here. And I know that can take us everywhere. So you're telling me this dollar store drug test that I'm going to take is not going to work.
What I'm telling you is just like training, you get what you pay for.
I think that's a great way. Yeah.
And I think just somebody else. Brian never intended to say that he backs in everywhere as he goes because it's just easier. What he tried to tell you is that, look at all the stuff. Look at our body of work where we're talking about it. One, easier to jump your car. Two, less likely to drive over your kid's head with an SUV. Yeah. Three, puts your engine, the heaviest part, up in front so you can kneel behind it to shoot, and it offers you cover. Four, you can ram other cars out of the way in a zombie apocalypse. What we're saying is that there's certain experts in the field, and yes, a test from Dollar Tree will tell you whether tetrahydrocannabinol is on board or not.
But I
is
should
it to
probably
a
know that.
level?
Shouldn't I know that
Right.
already?
But what I'm trying to say is the people that are likely to buy one are going to be a parent or a teacher or an
Yeah.
employer that's worried about an employee, at-risk human. Or on the other side is a person that's going to try to fool the test. And that's
Yeah.
what I said at the beginning. If you're thinking that you're high and that you're at a dollar store and you got a choice, burrito, drug test, burrito, drug test, you know what I'm saying? Because I got to have the salty and the sweet all at the same
Right.
time. The idea is that you're not thinking of a level of certitude. There's not a great degree of certainty in those test results as compared to having your analysis, a UA tested from the Mayo
Whatever.
Clinic.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So I'm just saying that don't put your faith in totems. Put your faith in one. If you're working and you're not supposed to be smoking dope, don't smoke dope. Find a place that allows you to do that. I'm sure. Hey, come to Colorado or California. There's probably a
Yeah.
whole bunch of places that would be happy, wavy gravy, that you smoke the dope. So it's the same thing. You're putting your faith in a tool, Brian, and it's not unlike buying a gun and thinking the gun is going to get you out of trouble,
Mm-hmm.
or buying a chemical aerosol spray and think now I'm less likely to get carjacked. That makes sense.
No,
You know?
I agree, and we could continue on with that. I just had someone reach out and discuss some of the issues they have with some of the events they run, and because the area now is heavy and big on open carry, and I said that just makes it like I'm a bad guy, so that makes it easier
Yep.
for me because now I can walk in with a gun and no one's gonna say anything. But
Yeah,
that's a whole
because you're
nother,
busy. No,
yeah,
no, no.
that's
That's
a whole
it.
nother.
So, but
Well,
doesn't
you're
this
making
go?
yeah, but the idea is, hey, don't rely on, hey, I've got my app on my phone, I'm good. Hey, no, I bought the gun, I'm good. It's
Yeah,
the difference between training and just having an object on you. And I think that ties back to kind of what you're getting at with the whole LinkedIn thing, right? I could sit there
yeah,
or
yeah.
even listen to this or watch the video, but if I'm not actually if I'm not practicing what I'm learning, if I don't have someone to show
That's the
me,
difference.
then I'm not going to do it. I'm
How do
not.
I improve my behavior if I don't
Yeah,
have a mentor?
exactly.
If I'm not tested, how do I know that I've grasped the key concepts of who's there to keep track of my KSAAs and
Yeah.
know that I'm learning something? So when we look at that, my thing is think of like the national threat registry, that came and went, and we've
The
got new ones
different
all the
color,
time.
yeah.
Nobody pays attention to that,
No.
but let's say that they did, and there was some DEF CON standard. Okay, DEFCON standards come from people not knowing that they're about to get killed, maimed, gassed, or exploded. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So
Yeah.
you waiting for that list, or you thinking that list isn't up there and therefore I'm safe, is ridiculous. You are responsible largely for your own safety and security in our country and when you go abroad. So my answer to Disney is the same answer to Dollar Store and the same answer to LinkedIn. You get what you pay for. So if I'm
Yep.
taking advice from a person I've never met,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying, over
Oh
a
no,
cook
it's
flip in a Dollar Tree, and I'm not bagging on those places. Again, that's where I am. That's where I'm headed for lunch to get my Cheetos. So what I'm saying is that training is different than education, and training certainly is a standard that needs to be met before you go somewhere. You don't have to go through a workout before you get to Disney, but it sure would help. You're going to be doing a lot of walking. Are you going to wear
yeah.
the right shoes? The consideration of wearing the right clothing at Disney and having the
We
right electrolytes are as important as your physical security.
Yeah, and then again, well, I would drive people to the website too, to arcadiacognerati.com for the lessons learned. There's a great one on there about wearing wearing the right footwear while
That's
flying.
hilarious and
I
so
mean,
true.
no, these are the things that people don't consider. That's all you need. Like things like that, you're already ahead of the power curve. You're ahead of the girl or guy wearing sweatpants that say juicy on them and flip flops. Like you're
You're
already going
exactly
to
right.
keep them off the plane.
So,
So
so, and you know what they
yeah.
don't think though, Brian?
Yeah.
They don't think you're an expert, Marsoc, secret squirrel, ninja, JSOC kind of guy with the Omega team for the CIA. Okay, and
I'm
what
Right,
the
just for the
people
record, everyone listening, I'm none of those things.
what the people at home don't
But I met a
understand.
dude who knows a guy that did some
Exactly. I
once.
saw him on a plane. He was wearing Under Armour. But the idea is, Brian, that when you were operating OCONUS in a dangerous place, the same exact rules applied there. So if I was watching somebody wearing a dashel and everybody else in that crowd had sandals, but that one person was wearing running shoes, I
Yeah.
know that those shoes were intended for running, and that was an anomaly to the baseline that had to be investigated. So if you're going to take HPPRNA and reverse the process, do you think somebody's going to size me up by how I'm dressed, by where I carry my wallet,
Yep.
by the shoes that I'm wearing when I'm at an event like that? I think absolutely. I think profiling and counter profiling. Do you get what I'm trying to say? It's like escalation and de-escalation. If you have the ability to escalate violence, then as a human, you have the ability and responsibility to de-escalate it. So all these things that we're talking about today, the great thing I think is you had 3 different questions and we were able to go through and tie them together. And you even said, hey, listen, folks, a lot of this we discussed on everything. Why? Because there's only a few life rules that you got to
Right.
learn to be
And
safe in almost any environment.
no, and that's the whole point too, is that you narrow it down to a few things and get really good at those, then you're
Get very
fine.
good at them.
Like you're not,
Exactly.
that's the whole point. It's the whole mastering the basics, right? Everyone says that, but very few people live by that. So I will admit I was the one who submitted the dollar store drug test question.
Just so you know, dollar store and Dollar Tree, I've been fooled before.
Whatever.
So no. I'm saying because remember, the one Dollar Tree, everything's a dollar.
Yeah.
Dollar store, there are
There
items
are,
for a dollar.
yeah.
So be careful because the drug test is in fact only
Yeah,
a
and you
dollar.
go up there and you only got a 5 spot on you and you think you're walking out with 5 things.
Exactly.
It doesn't
And you're
always.
still searching for that pair of shoes because you're going flying.
All right, I think that's a good spot to end it on. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and don't forget that training changes behavior.